and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm participating in the Craft Collabs Christmas in July hop. In this hop we're hoping to inspire you with some holiday projects that you can maybe create for Christmas this year. We have a giveaway provided by The Little Paper Tree. If you follow my channel you may be familiar with The Little Paper Tree because I create videos for them monthly, and I will link to my playlist of Little Paper Tree videos up in the top right hand corner. The giveaway is open internationally, and if you want to see what you can win and how to enter, then make sure to check out all the information in the description box below. There's also the link to the next stop in the hop down there, so make sure you go there and have a look. I hope you'll enjoy our projects, and thank you for hopping. So for my project I'm going to be creating with alcohol inks on a piece of vellum. More often than not, alcohol inks seem to be used on Yupo paper, which is not really paper, it's made of plastic, and Yupo paper can be quite expensive, so it's nice to have alternative options to create on with your alcohol inks. Vellum is one of these, and it's much less expensive, generally speaking, than Yupo is. It will work differently than using your alcohol inks on Yupo paper, but it still works nicely and you can get a really good effect with it. Another option would be to use acetate, for example. I decided to use a couple of different blues to create my alcohol inked background. As you may have seen, I started by adding alcohol blending solution across my piece of vellum. I then put on some stream alcohol ink, and I'm also using Tranquil, which is an alcohol pearl ink, and I'm going to be also using my air puffer to move the ink around in between layers. When I initially started laying the colour down, it wasn't moving around much. I think the vellum absorbs the ink a bit, where Yupo paper being plasticky doesn't. It really lets it sit on top. The vellum I think is slightly more porous, so it did absorb the first few layers, but as you build up the coverage you do have the ink staying wet for longer, which makes it easier to move around. And I'm just going to keep going back in, adding more blending solution, adding more of each of my two colours and moving it around with my air puffer until I'm happy with how it looks. I do prefer to use gloves when I'm working with alcohol inks, just because it is recommended not to get it on your skin, and also it keeps your hands cleaner, makes for easier cleanup. I know some people don't bother with gloves, but for me I prefer to, and I am using the same gloves. These are the same gloves I've used ever since I started using alcohol inks, which actually isn't that long, maybe a year, but you can just reuse them, so it's not like you're throwing them away every time you're done with them. And it doesn't matter that they get a bit stained up, because they'll be dry by the time you do the next one, and generally you're not sticking your fingers in the ink, or at least I'm not. I try not to. Also it's good to have some kind of craft mat on top of your regular crafting surface for easy cleanup, and because the alcohol inks will stain. So as I said, I'm just going to keep adding layers and colour until I'm happy with the coverage. I don't completely cover the piece of vellum. There are a few areas that are still just vellum coloured, and these will be translucent when I put them over my card base, but I think that adds a bit more interest to the design. If you want to cover the whole thing, then you can go ahead and cover the whole thing, but that's entirely down to your preference. And this does show you can combine regular alcohol inks and the alcohol ink pearls, and it does give a really interesting look. I think it has a kind of marbly feel to it, and this particular piece where I've used the blues would be really pretty for an ocean background. If you wanted to create an abstract ocean background, you may have seen my recent video where I shared some different ocean backgrounds, and I actually did do one with alcohol inks, but I didn't use alcohol pearls on that, but that is another way of doing it. So once I was happy with my background piece, I let it fully dry. I actually used my heat gun on the cool setting. My heat gun has two settings, and dried it off a little bit with that. And then I'm going to trim down a piece to use on my card. I like to keep my designs clean and simple, so I'm not going to be covering the whole card base with this. I'm just going to cut a piece to go down the center of the card base, and I'm using the snowflake that's going to be my focal point element as a guide to see how wide I need my panel to be. and I believe I settled on 1¾ inches wide for my panel. And I will set the other pieces aside to use on a future project. I'll also trim the strip down because it's slightly longer than I need, so I'm going to trim it to 5½ inches so it will be the same height as my card base. Before adhering the strip to my card base, I'm going to edge it with some peel-offs. These are Love from Lizi's pinstripe peel-offs in, I believe the colour is called Ice Blue. I will have a direct link to all the products I have used in the description box below, so if you want to check what anything is and where to get them, then you can find all that information down there. Where possible, I have used affiliate links, so if you do shop after using them, then I will get a little bit of kickback from that at no extra cost to you. And if you do that, then thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it, and it helps me to continue to make these videos for you. I've positioned the edged panel onto the center of my card base, and I'm going to add the snowflake on top of it. This snowflake came in a Love from Lizi card kit. I think this was the November one last year. I hadn't initially planned to use this, but I realized I don't actually have a large snowflake die. For some reason I thought I did. Luckily I found this snowflake that I had that I was able to use rather than having to completely rethink my card idea. I would have preferred to have it in white or silver, but I think the blue works well enough. I put glossy accents on the back of the snowflake, but made sure not to put it where it's going to be overhanging the edge of the strip, because for now I just want to adhere it to that strip, and I just weighed down the end of the strip with my scissors so it wouldn't move, so that I could make sure I got the position completely right. I let the snowflake sit for a while just to set onto the strip, and then I turned it over and I'm going to add adhesive, again the glossy accents, onto the back of the vellum, hiding it behind that snowflake. I did actually have to hold the strip up to the light so that I could see through it to make sure I was putting the adhesive in the right place, which actually does make me think that maybe I wouldn't even have needed to hide the adhesive, because if I couldn't see through it to put the adhesive down, then maybe it wouldn't show through anyway, but I thought it was better to be on the safe side. And once I've got the adhesive on the back of it, I'm going to flip it back over and adhere it to my card base and try and get it lined up. I did actually off camera add a little bit of adhesive to the bottom of that vellum strip as well to make sure it wasn't flapping around. I just put a few dots along the very edge where the peel-offs are, just so that that bottom edge would be held in place. I did consider adding a sentiment, but I didn't find any that I wanted to use. If I was going to add one, I would probably put it on a banner overlapping the snowflake, but I think it doesn't necessarily need one. I think it works really well how it is, and I'm happy with it without one, so I decided to leave it as is. I hope you enjoyed this video and you perhaps learned something new. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below if you have ever used alcohol inks. Have you ever tried using them on vellum or perhaps on something else? Let me know if you think I should have added a sentiment to this card, or if you think it works fine without one. If you enjoyed this video, do press the like button. If you didn't, feel free to press the dislike button instead. You can subscribe to my channel by pressing my logo that's showing on screen now if you're not yet a subscriber, and there are also a couple of other videos showing if you'd like to see more from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!